This next episode is with one of the best storytellers I know, not just with a camera, but also verbally. One of the busiest and hardest working people I know in show business, Mr. Steve Angel. Gotcha.
So whatever that was.
So if the perks you think are just, what are some of the hazards, quote unquote, the opposite of the perks? What are the things that people don't see, the lack, because it is easy to say, oh yeah, well, you're around this one and that one, and like you said, you're flying, but what's the dark side of it?
There's office politics involved in every job that happen, even more so when you're, don't have a resume, just working by word of mouth, that somebody says something bad about your,
mm-hmm.
work with you, There was a guy that wouldn't give me a ride home at the past All-Star game in Chicago. It was about 14 degrees.
I apologize for that, Angel. I told you. I just didn't see you.
That wasn't you. That wasn't you.
I know.
But he waited and, manipulatively said, no, you can't have a ride. And I was like, well, it's 8 degrees outside. You sure you don't have room? Well, you gave me a ride yesterday. Nope. That kind of, mind games.
What about the hours?
The hours are crazy, and the weekends and nights and stuff. That's an easy, that's a low-hanging fruit when you're answering this question.
Mm-hmm.
Is that you're doing your job when everybody else is sitting on the couch watching the game. Somebody wants to go away for a weekend. You got a guys' night or a group of friends that all want to go to Las Vegas or Napa Valley or golfing or boating or
just the movies.
Trip to the lake, or just the movies, or just be a friend.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tremendous strain on being married. It's a tremendous strain on being a father. Although the good parts, if I can, is I used to be the lone dad to go on. I used to try to get home. My goal, I have one daughter. My goal was to put her to bed, get a rental car, drive to Tennessee, Auburn, South Carolina, Alabama, wherever I could drive, do a college basketball game, drive home all night, get home, make her breakfast so that I was literally gone for like 26, 28 hours, and then collapse. Mm-hmm. So that the degree of normalcy and that
at least in their life, because Lord knows that is nothing normal about that from your standpoint.
No, nothing at all.
Right.
But or anybody's standpoint,
right.
Nobody does those kind of shifts except firemen. And then even then they get
and
time
special
off.
Forces. I'm convinced.
There you go. Yeah, you're right on that. But that would allow me to go on a field trip to the zoo, field trips to the petting zoo, field trips to 1,000 different things on a Tuesday or Wednesday when most folks, unless they were independently wealthy, couldn't do.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to take great pains to try to go eat lunch with my daughter at her school. That's always a big deal, especially when a dad comes. Not to sound chauvinistic, but moms might be able to make an effort to get there. But I would do everything I could in that regard to try to say, okay, you're going to miss me Saturday and Sunday, but I'm going to come to school Wednesday and juggle for the kids in the class. But it's a two-edged sword to do what we do because there is a great deal that you do give up, no matter what. If you manage to get some degree of success in terms of a family trade-off that no one wants to do, but it's. Do you want to be all you can be? Do you want to tell the greatest stories that can be told? Do you want to maximize your skill set, maximize your earning potential? And it's some people get the balance right. I think of my friend of yours, Steve Lowe, and Joe Vanderford are very good about balance. Mm-hmm. I never was. Some of the colleagues and some of the people you'll talk to probably weren't. Mm-hmm. And some of these guys that go out on racing or tennis or golf can go out 8, 12, 15 weeks straight. It's crazy. And you just do your laundry on the road, and it's like being on an oil rig or something like that, you stay in touch as best you can. And today's technology makes things a whole lot easier than what it was when we started, or when I started. And it's truly a challenge and a real testament to people who don't get a divorce or don't,
who survived this.
Yes, survive it. And, that's a completely a first world problem. A perk would be, I used to always take my daughter every year to try to see a play in New York whenever I did a basketball or football game up there, or baseball, and have a hotel room and see if I could buy some tickets ahead of time. And my daughter got to see a play. My daughter got to do a lot of cool stuff that she wouldn't normally have gotten to do. I remember taking her to Houston one time for one of the All-Star games we had there, and she and her mom went to NASA, and once again, I had a hotel room that was nice enough. And so you can incorporate some of that type of stuff in. I'd say, I don't know, some people do a much better job of seeing the world, and staying an extra day or two after or before an event. That was not me. But I don't know, trying to balance various clients is perhaps one of the most difficult challenges there can be. And driving all night is not a good way to do it, but I've done it more times than I care to admit.
So we spoke earlier about some of the, I call this sort of like the good, the bad, and the ugly. Like the good are the obvious things, some of the perks or some of the stories. The bad can be, let's say, like you said earlier, whether it be a game like at the Palace, or even maybe like when you get kind of yelled at it from a director because you're trying to maybe catch something special. What would you think would be would link in the category of ugly? If those are good, the bad, what's the ugly?
Ugly could be, I've got a couple more I want to talk about. I want to tell one more good, and that was, and you were close by, I believe, is when Kevin Durant won championship and came out and asked me if it was okay if he could give me a hug.
Oh, yeah.
Because he was soaked in champagne.
Yeah.
And
I do remember that, no doubt.
And I was like beside myself.
Right.
I met him at a very early age. I met him on a plane coming back from Istanbul, where they had won a world championship, and spoke with him there, and had long been a supporter, admirer.
Yeah, I was going to say, quite frankly, I can speak to the fact that I have seen you all a good amount of times before games, just you either giving them quick words of advice or just encouragement, and him sort of like saying, hey, what's up, or just whatever, it doesn't have to be long stories, but just quick acknowledgments and, hey, how you doing, walking over, and him even saying something I remember to the effect of how you're like the most positive person, one of the most positive people he's ever met.
He is?
No,
right.
He said that about you.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know what? That's very, very sweet of him. I got one quick story. I'm sorry I'm long-winded.
No, go ahead.
In Chicago one time, they were doing a shoot-around, and he was sitting on the bench, and I'd traveled the night before. I hadn't watched anything. I hadn't watched highlights. And I did one of those, innocently enough, and said, you know what? Tonight you're going to do something really, really good. You're going to be a great, great teammate tonight. And he said, thanks, man. That's very kind of you. Have a great day. Gave me a bro hug. Went back on his way, and they left the arena. Have I told you this story?
No, I don't know this one.
Well, one of his, he was at OKC at the time.
Mm-hmm.
One of his handlers, one of his trainer guys, came walking down the back hallway in Chicago at the United Center and said, are you Steve Angel? I was like, yeah. And he said, were you talking to Kevin Durant? And I was like, hey, man, I'm really sorry. I just,
yeah, right.
Automatically
really defense,
sorry.
right?
I'm going
to shut my mouth.
I'm going to get thrown off this game.
Right.
Lord knows what happened. I don't know what happened. He said, no. I want to talk to you. I said, hey, I'm sorry if I crossed or breached etiquette. I didn't mean to. I'm always trying to say something nice to these guys. I'm always trying to lift them up. He goes, no, stop talking. I said, okay. He said, last night, Kevin took the shot and he lost the game in like double overtime or single overtime. Mm-hmm. And he's been in a blue funk ever since. And whatever you just said lifted that funk. And I said, I don't think so. Let's not give me more credit than it's worth. Long story longer. they ended up winning in overtime against Chicago that very next night. From that point on, I think I was a made man. I think I was the lucky guy that accidentally handed him the thing. But when I do talk to these guys, they're young men. They're young people that have overcome tremendous odds. The odds are phenomenal. I don't care if you are 6'11". There are thousands of people who are 6'11" who don't play in the NBA.
And people also forget how young they are. I think the young man part is not stated. It's almost understated that a lot of these guys are in these positions and they're 21, 22. And you take anybody 21, 22, and with you add the money and the attention and all the other stuff, good luck with having a clear perspective on life. So,
Well, I would say most folks, you can just say, where were you at 21?
Right.
And half of them are going to say I was a busboy. I dropped out of college, and luckily my dad got me a job driving a truck, or whatever. My case, most folks don't have it all figured out at that tender age. They are a different breed, and they are a different metal because they are playing world games at 17. So it's the great ones, the big ones. But for every one of those, there's 20 other guys that are just trying to get enough money to buy some pizza.
Right.
So they are, just like you say, 21-year-olds, just like most any of us were or are or will be. Keith, who's my brother from San Antonio, Keith, I can see his face right now.
What does he do?
Robo operator. Tremendous athlete. Was a decathlete. Keith Keller.
Right. Yeah. That's right.
Keith Keller said he almost took a picture when he gave me that hug. I wish he had taken it, because I would love to have had that image. And he was polite enough to say, "Do you mind? I'm about to get you wet with championship champagne."
Right.
To which I said, "I would love a championship champagne hug. Love it." And he gave me a big hug, and it was very, very special to me. And he shares, if you've ever seen his acceptance speech talking about his mom, you'll know he's a good person. And if he's not, he's one of the greatest actors of modern day since Laurence Olivier, which I don't believe that he's a bad actor. I'm just saying.
No, I know exactly what you're getting at. He's genuine in that regard, no doubt.
Yeah, he was genuine that day to me, and I love him for it. He was tremendous, and that is the kind of perk that you can't put money on. And a tremendous experience for me. As a basketball junkie, as a basketball fan, the guy who played, thousands upon thousands of hours. There was something else you were talking about. Ugly.
Right.
The pain I'm experiencing right now in my neck is a resident of not a obstinate bank teller, but of a real pain from carrying a camera too long on my shoulder, on my back, and it bothers me to this day. That's a downside. If anybody has ever seen a collision under the basket, and we've all had them.
Yes, sir.
And my friend of yours, John Shupin, actually got knocked out, taken to the hospital. I'm blessed that I've had pains until my dying day. But I also want to say I think I knew what I was doing when I was doing it, and I did it far beyond what I should have. But I still do it, and I still will, and I consider that a litmus test for whether you're really a cameraman, a storyteller, or you're just a guy that happens to stand behind a thing on a tripod.
Absolutely.
Sort of aim and push. But that's, to me, is and I think that frontline people, be it an offensive lineman, be it a goalie in hockey, be it a catcher in baseball, whatever, the guys that do the dirty work are people that coaches and managers and professionals respect and admire. I hope so anyway, because that's what I would hope if I die tomorrow, that people would say, yeah, he got after it. He tried. He didn't succeed very often, but by God, he stuck his nose in there and he got clobberized. The hardest I ever got hit was by a guy named Derek Fisher, and I thought he had broken my back.
Isn't it interesting? It's rarely the really big guys when they hit you that hurt. Not that they feel good, but it's usually the guys who seemingly are slight or, in comparison to basketball players. I guess what I'm saying is it's not the Glenn Davis or LeBron for that matter. It is the Derek Fisher. It is, it's the seemingly
went
lighter
full on
guys.
airborne. I mean, he was airborne. It was in the finals. He wouldn't have done it in a regular season game. And he hit me in the chest with his shoulder, and I felt every vertebrae go, and I cannot explain that any better than that. And it felt like everything had been popped. And I thought, am I going to be paralyzed? And I kind of stopped for a second. I went, I think I'm okay.
Right.
But I was scared to death because he was coming, and that's the downside and the plus side. You know, get to be that close to these guys, and you never want to be part of the story. You want to be
an outsider.
An outsider just looking in and conveying the imagery. You don't ever. For me, if the story's about me, or if they shoot me, I don't want that to be the case. You know, it happens from time to time when somebody gets clobbered or a foul ball almost hits you in the head or what have you in that regard. But anyway, there was one other thing you wanted to talk about the ugly, or about the
about the ugly. I was saying we talk about the good and the bad. What's the ugly? But you mentioned some things that were definitely on the ugly side.
You know, I'll tell you this: at the Malice of the Palace, I had a policeman with his hand on my chest, pushing me while I was live, and he said, "If you don't back up, I'm going to have to arrest you. My boss is right behind me, and he's watching us." So I did what I call one of those Hitchcock zoom ins.
As you back out
with the guy named Jim Gray, and that's all I want to say about Jim Gray.
Gotcha.
But and eventually we got off the air, and I was apologizing to him, and the person I mentioned earlier, Andy Italiano, said, until you know that moment where a policeman's saying, "I'm about to arrest you if you don't move," and you have a director and or producer or everybody in the truck, your boss is saying, "By God, don't you dare move. Don't you lose that image. This is critical." Till you get into that place where the rock becomes a diamond, the carbon becomes a diamond, you haven't really done our job. You know, when somebody is saying, "You're going to spend the night in lockup," you're saying, "I'm just doing what my boss tells me to do, sir." Because I don't care. You got to move. And on your headset, the guy says, "Don't you move! Don't you move!"
Right, because that's exactly what's happening. Opposite.
Move.
Just the opposite.
The very opposite. And you're like, I'm in a conundrum here. I'm in a quandary.
Right.
I don't want to go to the drunk
to the
tank.
clink. Yeah, but I swear there's 30 people in my ear.
Yes, and there are people screaming bloody murder, and it's a little bit different day now.
Right.
And they emphasize safety, but you know, that's said and done. There's imagery that tells a story that can only be gotten in. I've always tried to pride myself on not going places where people didn't want me. That said and done, I would just move and try to get an image if I could, but try to be on the up and up and never try to shoot something. And I used to do a lot of that stuff with baseball, basketball, football, and ask politely, "Can I get an image of you?" And they say, "No, not right now," or "Give me a second. I'm talking to a friend of mine." I give them a minute and quietly
get what you need.
Get what I need and go about my business.
Speaking of
I got one more story.
No, go ahead. Go.
This is for Sunday Night Baseball. I'm trying my damnedest to get a bump shot of a fella named Chase Utley, who I do not like. Will not get a Christmas card from me.
Right.
He kept turning and kept turning and kept turning. We're doing a Sunday Night Baseball game in Philadelphia. Crazy hot. They were playing the St. Louis Cardinals. This is 1,000 years ago. Behind him, or behind me, I should say, there's a guy. And I was running the RF wireless camera. Let's see, the cableless camera. I hear a guy say, "Man, he don't like your shoes." Have I told you this story?
No, I do not know this one. But I know these Chase Utley stories are real. So.
Well, so I do, once again, the white guy pretending to be the black woman at the hair salon going, "Oh, no, he didn't," to this guy, and he starts laughing. The person at the time, I turn around, Albert Pujols. I go, "Hey, he's on my list. I need to get a quick shot of him. Screw this Chase Utley."
Yeah.
I mean that as nicely as I possibly can, and I hope he doesn't get paralyzed. But if he was in a coma, it'd be okay. Not my favorite human.
Yeah, a lot of people have to take quite exception with this guy. I'm surprised, actually, that more people have not mentioned him in stories. I think it's almost like understood. But I know somebody's got some great, a couple of good Chase Utley stories. I haven't had him on yet, but I will. And I'm gonna
Well,
prod him about him.
He's never going to make it to the camera operator friendly Hall
No,
of
he
Fame.
won't. He won't.
And he probably would be rejoice in that.
Right.
Anyway, long story longer, I got a great couple of images of Albert Pujols, but at the time was all that, the Mr. Big Pants, hitting home runs left and right. Unbelievable. Very, very pleasant. I quickly asked him, who was your favorite player? And he tells me it's, oh my God, I'm drawing a blank. It was Julio Franco.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, hey, Julio Franco just got cut by the Mets. I think the Braves are going to pick him back up again. He goes, wow, that's really cool. I asked him very politely, hey, I'm running this camera today. If you hit a home run, when you come down the third base path, I'm going to run alongside you. He goes, yeah. I said, if you'll give me one of those little rat-a-tat-tats like you've got, guns in your hand. Mm-hmm. And he goes, and I can't emphasize this strongly enough. He says, I might hit 3. And he says it with full measure of just very calm, very quiet, not full of himself at all. Mm-hmm. I don't know how to.
No, just sort of like, hey, you never know.
This
might
matter
be my
of factly.
Night. Mm-hmm.
Well, case in point, his first at bat, pow, hits a home run. Oh my God! The Phillies had put out a one of these fifth starters, kids just coming up first start.
Right.
It's 100 degrees. Philadelphia's near the water. It's humid.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He still knocks the living out of the ball. I run him down the base path. This poor kid, I don't think he made it out of the 5th or 6th inning, if that. His 3 or 4 guys hit home runs. I'm about to overheat because I'm running with this 40 pounds in addition to all my other,
right.
At that point in time, the camera went all over the stadium in addition to running just out on the field of play.
Correct.
Got him, Edwin Encarnacion hit a home run. I run out there, run him down the side, and that in and of itself is a hard thing to do, and anybody that's done it would definitely acknowledge, because you are all that, and there's no safety net. You have to avoid the third base coach. You have to avoid the third baseman. You have to avoid you can't go out onto the field of play. You got to avoid the bat that's laying there, and you're running backwards almost. So Edwin Encarnacion hits a home run. I barely get him into the dugout. I barely hop off the field. The next pitch, pow, Albert Pujols hits his second home run. I run back out there, barely get out there before he's at third base, run him down the thing, barely get off the field of play, run to the far end of the dugout. Now, as he's high-fiving his teammates, he looks past all of them to me and hits himself in the head and goes, oh, I was supposed to do that rat-a-tat-tat thing.
Like, oops.
I'm in like surreal, wonder world. He comes and brings me, I'll never forget this, 2 big glasses of blue Gatorade, Powerade, whatever it's called, which I drink immediately because he sees my face is just beet-face red. And I'm like, oh my God, he hit 2 home runs. Come to the 6th or 7th inning, they bring out a new reliever named, a reliever who'd been injured named Flash Gordon. Mm-hmm. I'm not lying when I tell you, on the 3rd or 4th swing, Pujols hits a ball to the deepest part of Citizens Park. I mean, it was 420 to the deepest part of center field, left center, I think maybe.
Right.
He hit it 410. A home run any place else in the field. He came, like I say, 10 feet away from hitting his third home run. I am like beyond gaga. I cannot fathom that this has happened. And it
by
was,
prediction.
Swing was just effortless. And he just, like he said, hey, I might hit 3. I'm sorry, I didn't tell that story very well, but it blew my mind. Long story longer, the next day, he comes to Atlanta. I tell the producer the story. He is hugging Julio Franco like he's the uncle that gave him his first piece of candy. And I've got this amazing story about Albert Pujols. Many of you might know, one of the greatest baseball players alive today. His hero is just signed by the Braves, Julio Franco. Anyway, I didn't tell the story very well.
No, it's a great story. Hell, You know,
It's
again,
unbelievable.
it's about the interaction again. You know, and the humanity, not for nothing, because here it is, like you said, he's confident, not cocky, and almost really wrote his own script that day. You know, truly.
Maybe he that this kid that he knew this kid and knew what he pitched, because
Well,
I'm telling you, it was like
yeah,
it
it's
was
no
sequence.
question. But let's be honest. The professionals, kind of like we were talking about with the prepping, and what we do at a certain level. These guys at the level that especially at the level he's playing at or was playing at, he knows these pitchers. He knows what they like to do to him. He knows what they have. He knows what to look for. I mean, the really, really good guys are truly waiting on certain pitches, you know,
Yeah.
and are waiting for their pitch. And when they see it, they usually, the really good ones, they crush it. That's what they do. That's what they do.
Chipper Jones, who's supposedly supposed to be doing baseball for Espen this year, which I'm very excited about, swears up and down that he remembers every single pitch of every at bat.
I'd be interested to hear his take. You know.
You know what? He knows. He knows. He was always great to me as well.
Mm-hmm.
He was always great to me. And I got one more interaction story if I can.
Yes.
I know I've told you this one. The year after he retired, he was walking into Turner Field, and I had interacted with him a little bit at the benches and bump shots, and he'd always been great to me. And I was at the truck working, and I hear, hey, hey, hey. I turn around, hey, it's Chipper Jones. I run over to him. He says, man, it's so surreal coming into the ballpark and not having to go to work. I said, yeah, that's got to be weird. I said, are you throwing out the first pitch today? Is that why you're here? He goes, yeah, I am. I said, I got an idea for you. He said, I don't want to know it. I said, yeah, you do. He says, no, I don't want it. If it's from you, I don't want it. I said, come on. Come on, Chipper, give me a break.
He knows you better than you
if
thought.
If I listen to you, will you let me go? And I said, yes, I'll let you go if you'll dutifully listen. And he goes, okay. I said, well, here's what I want you to do. He's already pulling away from me. I know he's not going to do it. I know he's not. I said, when you get out on the mound, give your wave. 50,000 people all love you. Braves fans, Braves country, blah, blah, blah. You give them the wave, and you get into your crouch he's going, no, I'm not. I said, you haven't heard me yet. He goes, okay, all right.
He's like, I don't like where you're going with this.
Yeah. I said, here's what I want you to do. He said, what? And he's already given me the kind of standoffish, shut up. And I said, I want you to shake them off. I want you to go through every shake-off motion there possibly is. I want you to nod, a subtle nod, the little thing with the glove where you kind of do it in a rotation kind of thing from your waist. I want you, and then finally, I just want you to just give the exasperated look and wave them out to the mound. As I'm telling each one of these points, he's starting to grin. He knows this is a good comedy bit.
Right.
He knows. I said, at the end of it, he's grinning at me, that big Cheshire Cat grin, that $1 million smile of his. And I said, so you going to do it? He goes, no, not a chance. I'm just going to. I said, come on, man. Come on, Chipper. Come on. It'll be the greatest. It'll be the first thing on Sports Center tonight. It'll be unbelievable. You will love it. It'll be so good. It'll be so good. And he goes, yeah, it might be, but you know what? I'm just going to try to hit the leather. I hadn't thrown a ball in like 3.5 weeks since spring training. Right. I'm just going to try to hit the leather. I'm just going to try to hit the glove.
Type thing, right?
That's all I'm going to do is try not to embarrass myself. I said, whoever's catching, this could be the greatest thing ever. I'm telling you. He goes, no, I'm not going to do it. I saw him last year in the playoffs. I asked him about it. He goes, yeah, I remember that. And no, I was never going to do that.
It would have been funny if he did, though.
It would have been, don't you think? I think it would have been a good one.
Especially
I think it would have been great, especially for somebody that iconic. And he wasn't the biggest prankster. I think he was a jokester. He could have his moments, but I don't think he was the all-time, leading in the clubhouse kind of prank, kind of guy.
Not in that clubhouse. Maybe, you know what? I see the guys. I see the what was that picture? The little picture they had.
Which one? I know you're talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about.
He was a clown.
Oh, he was the one that rode him in naked.
Yes, exactly.
Hopped on his back. Yeah, that guy was three-quarters half crazy.
He was funny as hell. Yeah, I can't think of his name. Anyhow.
Yeah, he was not right in the head, but a great competitor.
Exactly. And like you said, he worked his way back. He went. Didn't he go to Kansas City?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. After reconstruction, all kinds of stuff, he got back to the bigs, which is that once again, anybody that's ever done that. I'm going one more really good on Chipper Jones.
Mm-hmm.
Chipper Jones won an MVP in the National League. Chipper Jones tore his ACL at 19 or 20 and played with a brace his entire career. Switch hitting, no less. That is an amazing testament to either the surgeon, to the trainer, to his recuperative skills, and had an 18 or 16 or 20-year career.
And his mental fortitude, definitely.
Yes, and the I can do it, I don't care what anybody else says, kind of a mindset that these guys have, that is a great testament to any and all of the human spirit. And it's amazing what these people can do. And they say, well, he's built differently, he's stronger, he's faster, he's quicker. Yeah, but there's a lot of guys that are just as fast, just as strong, just as tall, just as mean. But and sometimes it's the circumstances. You get lucky, you get drafted by the right team.
Absolutely.
So
I'm a big proponent of, there are plenty of great athletes that just did not get in the right system. Period.
Oh, totally. And it makes you wonder, why did they draft them? Why did they hire them? And Chauncey Billups may be the greatest example of that at all. Rick Pitino took the job with the Celtics because they had the number one pick or the best chance for the lotto. He's thinking he's going to get this little guy from Wake Forest named Tim Duncan. And the ping pong balls dropped the other way, and he went to San Antonio. Can I tell one more?
Yeah, you don't have to ask me. Go ahead.
Well, I met this guy who I'd covered several times, speaking of San Antonio, and the guy's name was David Robinson. And David Robinson had hurt his back the year, which was why they could get Tim Duncan, because they lost a lot of games that year because David Robinson wasn't around. Towards the end of spring, he ended up going and caddying for a fellow Christian named Corey Pavin, and he caddied for him at the par 3 tournament at the Masters. So I asked him, because he wore the caddy outfit, which was, it looked like me wearing a...
I can only imagine what this imagery is looking like with 7 foot.
It was hilarious. They got the triple XL, and he's about a 6XL. So the pants come up to about mid-calf.
They were capris at that point.
Capris, exactly. And it is a full jumper that the caddies wear at Augusta, white with the name of the player on the back. And the arms came up to like his elbow. So I saw him do this, and I asked him, "Did you get a chance to play the course?" And he said, and he immediately pounced because he said, "No, I so wanted to do it." I said, "Well, then why didn't you? If they were going to give you the opportunity to play?" He said, "Well, I don't know if you're aware of this. I'm a 7-foot black man." I said, "I was, and I am. But thank you for asking." I am aware. He said, "Well, I figured I've got a bad back. My back was pretty close to healed at that point in time, but I wasn't going to play anymore for the rest of the year. There were only like 10 games, 15 games left, and we were mathematically out of the thing. But I thought, if I play golf at one of the most hallowed places there is, and I hurt my back, and I fall to the ground writhing, 7'2" guy.
He's just going to stay there.
People are probably going to find out about it. And I just couldn't, in good faith, these people are paying me a lot of money to heal and to get ready for next season. And I just didn't really think that I could do it. But the imagery of him carrying the clubs is unbelievable. It's one of those
and truly, this is out of ignorance because I don't play golf at all. When you're that tall, do you have to get special ordered clubs?
Yes, you probably do if you're that tall.
Because I can't imagine him bent over.
Well, there's been a couple of guys who were like 6'7", 6'8" that bent because they didn't make custom clubs are a completely different creature today than what they were back then. But back in the day, it was a guy named George Archer who won the Masters, very, very good, who looked like he was in a half squat when he was taking his swing. And that's definitely a part of it. I'm 6'4", almost 6'5", and I should probably have longer clubs than I have. But Yeah, it's now they can tailor make them to whatever size, you know, in that regard. But at the time, people would just choke up or, you know,
or
hold
just
them
bend
like
over.
that. Yeah, bend over or keep it in. I used to tear up my golf gloves because I would keep mine halfway into my hand because I was a little too tall for my clubs. But, you know, sort of like wearing shoes that don't fit. You just put some newspaper in the toes.
Right. Okay. You
Sorry.
spoke, or no, fine. You said something earlier when we were talking about the difference when Andy Italiano gave you that advice about that borderline that you're on of at one point getting in trouble, but then any other part of having people in your ear saying stay with it. Usually that is coming from directors. Stevie Lowe actually gave a great analogy on what directors, how to categorize them in the sense of he called them the quarterbacks of a team, essentially. But from a character standpoint, how would you describe different types of directors?
I'm not exactly sure I understand the question, but I'll go and you can redirect me if I need to. There's some that are crazy over-prepared. I don't really think that option is really viable. I think the best that I know are over-prepared and know what they know. They're up to date with their sport. They're up to date with the players. They know what the tendencies are. They know who's mad at who or whom, who's favoring who or whom. They actively go in because a lot of times the directors do get to go in and talk to the announcers and the coaches. And if they don't, the producer does. And they have an idea of what they're going to talk about, what's going on, what's happening. We're really high on this young buck. We're really concerned about this older veteran kind of thing. Is they're going to be able to last the season before they have to have their knees worked on, so on and so forth. And are aware of it. I think there's a whole different level. And I would say, once again, I would go back to playing between the keys. There's certain people that go with the rhythm, go with the flow, very free form. If they were a jazz enthusiast, they would be very good because they do go just let the story play out in a bit of reactive as opposed to proactive. I think you need a lot of storytelling, especially in the immediacy of live television, is we never get a second take. I love to say that to every utility. And if I'm not where I need to be, they're not going to jump up and give a high five again after they score that touchdown. They're not going to bump chests with people again. They're not going to celebrate at home plate again because my cable was not coiled up properly. So you only get one take on a lot of that stuff. Videotape, you can replay a lot of stuff, but if you're not there the first time. But my point to that is that there's different styles and different takes and different manners. Some people prepare, have a storyline already set in their mind, don't want to waver from it. This is the story. Steve cannot block Cheese. Cheese is an aggressive outside pass rusher. We're going to feature that. Cheese gets dinged up on the first play and is not a factor at all. How well do you adapt from that?
Right.
That was what you thought your story was going to be. But the guy that came in and replaced him was a 10-day contract player, is playing for his life. He is playing for his very soul. He is playing for his 2-month-old, his 3-year-old, and his wife who's pregnant. He is going to play out of his mind. He is going to be a star today, and he is going to, if not get a job with these people, get a job with somebody else who's watching, who needs a player that can do what this guy is doing. And those stories can pop up in a moment's notice, and you never know what's going to happen. And me trying to block you or Cheese or whoever may not know he's got a bad knee. You know, we don't know that. We don't know a lot of the stuff that's going on. There's only so much they reveal about some of this stuff, and there's only so much that should be revealed because it's private, you know, and these people are trying to earn a living. And this guy can make his nut, can get 6 sacks, can totally run the quarterback off the field and become a name overnight.
That's right.
Literally. Overnight. I remember a guy hitting a game-winning shot for the Utah Jazz. Is it literally, he was a 32-year-old rookie. I only remember him because he played at the University of Georgia. And he made a name for himself overnight. And I don't know what that got him. He didn't stay in the NBA. But my point being
got him
is
some more
that
days, though. That's what we know.
Got him some more. Got him another 10-day contract, and probably got him another $100K from somebody in Italy, just on the prestige factor alone, in that regard. And they are playing for their respective lives and for their kids and for their dad or mom or uncle that drove them to 1,000 practices. And so on and so forth. Those stories are very real, and they're very compelling and very interesting. And I take almost as much joy seeing somebody get on first base with their first Major League Baseball hit, or somebody score their first basket in a game, or somebody score their first touchdown. And in the NFL, that may only be their only one. You never know. It could be one of 1,000. It could be the very first one. But those kind of stories of I remember you did games with him, Justin Hayward.
Oh yeah.
They asked him one time, how does it feel to be playing 150, 180 games with spring training and getting paid for it? Here you are, 21. It's got to be pretty refreshing. He goes, I've been playing 220 games since I was since I was 13.
Right.
And he said it very matter-of-factly, but he was a part of that East Cobb big baseball.
Yeah, that high school up there.
Super.
Where Frank Corman came from.
Yeah, all those guys. And he said very matter-of-factly, I've been playing that many games for a long time. It feels good now to finally be getting paid to do it. But I've been doing this for quite some time. I'm aware of what it takes for my body, for my soul, for my brain to go through that. And I thought, wow, I didn't really, these guys got to come from somewhere.
That's right. They didn't just pick up a bat out of nowhere or get on the field out of nowhere. They put in time.
Mom and Dad were driving him every single day, as soon as school got out, racing up there to get to practice by 3:45, because he didn't live close to that at all. And there's a number of those kind of stories. And you think, somebody says, well, my old Rambler or my old Dodge Impala, Chevrolet Impala has logged, 180,000 miles, and it's going to volleyball tournaments for your daughter or baseball weekend tournaments for your kid. And for every one of those 200 kids, only one of them are going to make it to be professional, maybe 3 if you're lucky. And everybody else is going to say, well, that was fun. I don't know. Those kind of stories to me are really, really, those to me almost are more fun to tell those stories than to see a guy who was born into this unbelievable body, had a good coach, his dad played in the NBA, or was a golf pro or whatever,
Right.
See some hard scrabble story where the guy made something out of himself because he found out he could do this or do that, or happened upon a good circumstance. The same thing holds true with us. So a lot of these guys stumbled into sports. Some of them were sports fans. Some of them really wanted to do this. A lot of them didn't, and you can tell, you can see it, you can sense it, and you can know, what, Tim too has always wanted to work on Monday Night Football. And now Tim too has done like 7,000 Monday Night Football games. And he's fulfilled a life dream several times over and given us, the viewer, 1,000 different images that we can revel in and enjoy. And him and thousands other like him are secure in my pantheon of great camera operators and great storytellers. And I say storytellers because I don't know what's going to happen. Who knows what kind of stories or what kind of instruments they're going to be for us to tell stories with. But the storytelling still reigns supreme. And I think any director or producer worth their salt is a good storyteller. And I don't mean a good bar yarn, odd thing to say, but a good storyteller in the bar, where you're prone to exaggerate that the fish was 14 feet long and 7,000 pounds. No, I'm talking about somebody who can condense,
capture the moment,
story down and capture the moment. Alfred Hitchcock, I want to change gears, used to always say that great drama is just life without all the boring parts, which I think is kind of cool, kind of neat. You think about it, nobody really cares about you, brushing your teeth But the chase of the bad guy chasing you down the street, you hop in the car, you run away. You know, nobody shows you dropping your keys. Nobody shows you fumbling in your thing. Nobody shows you spilling your smoothie. You know, they just cut to a different angle of you pulling the car in gear, maybe a quick shot of the foot on the gas, and boom, 7 seconds, you've conveyed that I'm running after you with a gun and you have gotten away in your car. A compression of or expansion of time, if that makes any sense. We used to study that. I did that in film class. But the same thing holds true with 3 hours of baseball. You know, you want to try to compress. Golf coverage is totally tape. Nothing ever happens live. I mean, it does, but there's a lot of stuff that doesn't.
Right.
You know,
so it's rolled back.
It's
pick them up on that back nine. Pick them up on the front. Whatever.
Just a second ago, Steve Angel was on the tee at number 7. Let's see what happened. Oh wow, boy, that's a kick-in birdie. Now he's going to go to 8 under, and he's only 3 back from our leader. Let's keep an eye on him. That stuff happens all the time in terms of time shifting, if you will. And you've done this long enough; you've seen it. People throw their football helmet down. People kick the bench on a basketball game. People break their hockey stick over their knee. That stuff happens all the time. And the good ones can seamlessly weave it, directors and pictures into the tapestry that we're trying to create in a 2 or 3 hour live window. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. Have you ever had any crazy fan stories where?
I talked to a fan about Ivan Nova one time in a playoff game at a Yankees game, a Yankees playoff game for Turner. I can't remember what year, but he was having a hard time. And this fan talked to me and just tapped me on the shoulder and talked to me for a few minutes about it. And I told him what I thought. He didn't seem to be the same pitcher he had been earlier in the year, and I wasn't sure what exactly the problem was. And that fan's name was, this is the wait for it moment, Jay-Z.
Okay.
Yeah, so that kind of stuff happens a lot more than you'd think sometimes. Somebody says something to you, or they want to know, well, you've been
They
there.
ask you a question, right? And you're like, I know who you are. Hold on.
Okay, but he was sitting behind me, and he had one guy who was a security guard with him who he was tired of talking to or didn't want to talk baseball or didn't know baseball. Right. So he just tapped on my shoulder and said, hey, is he doing this? And I was like, oh, hang on just a second. Yeah, there's countless people that you talk to in that regard. And that I try to be polite. I try to be cordial. I try to be pleasant. And I try not to get too caught up, or too...
Right.
Don't lose my focus, so to speak. But fans are fans, and people want to speak and want to talk, and
they feel like maybe you have inside information too. I mean, let's be honest. There's that,
I'm sorry, I got one more story I want to tell.
Go ahead, man.
Finals. I couldn't tell you what year. Disney, ABC, ESPN, whatever you want to call it, was doing the finals. It was in L.A. 4 stars are sitting right next to the LA bench. Chris Rock, Adam Sandler, David, whatever his name is, Stayed, and the guy from King of Queens, Grown Ups 2 or Grown Ups 7 or whatever.
Kevin James.
Thank you. Are all sitting courtside, right next to the LA bench that Kobe Bryant always sits on the first seat, if you will. I'm in the huddle. I'm looking. I'm watching. Not much is going on. They're talking technical strategy that we can't air. I look up, and Kobe Bryant is just looking out, just piercing. I mean, he's going through his checklist, if you will, his mental notes. Right, and I shot him, so I put him in profile. In the background, Chris Rock is doing one of these. Have you ever eaten some Vienna sausages with some saltine crackers and then it falls on the ground and you say, that's my saltine cracker? One of those kind of moments that he's telling, it wasn't a saltine cracker. You still there?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's telling one of these stories, and it's funny. And I'm not doing I did a bad Chris Rock.
Yeah,
but
that sounds like
kind
Bill
of Chris
Cosby
Rock,
a little bit, but I got you.
Very loud. Yeah. Oh, yeah. There was definitely a tinge of Bill Cosby in it, but it had that kind of Cosby-esque kind of loud, over the top kind of thing. And I shot this image, and I thought it was such I don't know if the right term is dichotomy, or just, it was so different.
Contrast, such a contrast.
Yeah,
one person is concentrating and focusing, and this other one is obviously doing just the opposite.
Absolutely locked in. These other guys are just there enjoying the game, barely paying attention. They're there strictly to promote their movie, which we did dutifully. And it was such a contrast in images. And I shot it maybe late in the first quarter, and I don't think it made air until the third quarter. Because the tape guys tried to sell it, and there was so much inventory we had to get on the air, and there was 100 different things going on. And finally, I think it was Ryan Connery got it and said, "Put it over to me. Let me see if I can sell it." Got it up on the monitor wall so that our announcer, Jeff Van Gundy, could see it. As soon as he saw it, he said, "Stop. Put that on the air. I want to explain. This guy doesn't even know that they're even there.
Right.
He's not even aware that they're next to him. He is totally locked in." And I thought it was one of the best images I ever shot. And it had nothing to do with the game proper. It was just the fact that this guy was totally, God rest his soul, was totally locked in and had not a clue that this really funny story, and forgive me, it had nothing to do with Vienna sausages.
Yeah, I know, but it was just whatever the story was. I got you.
Whatever his joke was, and it was funny, and they were all laughing at it and having a good time and enjoying themselves, as you should when you go to an event. And he could not have known that they were even present.
And the fact that they were probably a couple of feet away from him, too, made it that much more
6 feet,
compelling.
4 feet. And he, like I say, Chris Rock was speaking loud. I could hear him through my one open ear, which had a piece of ear plug in it. So I knew he heard him. He could hear him. If he couldn't, I know he did, but he didn't. It didn't register whatsoever. There's stories of famous stories of other guys. Jack Nicklaus hitting a putt, and they're saying, "Did that train bother you?" And he would say, "What train?" And he would be completely, totally serious. And they go, "The train that blew its whistle on your back swing as you were making that big, crucial putt." And he'd go, "I don't remember that. I don't recall. When was that?" And you go back and you look and you go, "Boop, boop,"
and
and it's not like a guy trying to get in trouble. It just so happened that the train track was a half a mile away from the golf course.
Would you agree that something like that is similar when we're operating, when you're locked in and you don't hear some of the peripheral things that could be distracting, whether it be, who knows, fans, whistles? I mean, there's a plethora of noise going on. Even a director for that matter.
Oh, I think definitely that can be the case, but I also think that there's a huge number. Our brain, we only use 5 or 10%, and I probably use about 1%. But you have filters. Right now, I'm standing in a room when there's a low rumble of the refrigerator that's not far away, that if I open that filter door, I can hear it. And I'm hearing it now loud and clear because I decided to, that we can open and close. When you and I are doing our job, there are 7 or 8 different sounds going on at any one time. There's the director. You can hear the producer in the background. You can hear the tape people sometimes. You can hear 4 or 5 different things going on in the truck on that one channel. Channel 2, you hear that sound. You can hear what's going on there. 3, you can hear what's going on in the arena. And then you've got 4, 6, 8 other guys that are speaking potentially, depending on the platform of whether or not the director wants you to speak or not speak. Some making just commentary, like they're sitting on their couch. "Oh, he shouldn't have taken that shot."
That's the truth.
That you go, well, I don't need that. Please don't talk. I'm trying
There's
to
enough
glean
already.
all this other. There's plenty of other, and I'm as guilty as anybody of that. So I don't want to sound like I am not guilty of that. But
there's still
there's filtrations that you and I can do, but there are and that's oral only. And then there's visuals of this, of that, of what's going on in your viewfinder, what's going on in return, meaning what is actually being played back live at this moment. How can I contribute to that? Well, I'll go to the hero that just made that. There's 1,000 different things. If you really, truly, thoroughly engage doing this job, that for me at least, at the end of a game, I'm usually a mental just bucket of slush, because I'm trying to use every single source, every single
brainwave
avenue,
to
every
do all this filtering and selective filtering, just like you said, because it's
it's with the smell. Why? What is that smell?
Right.
I'm near the bench.
Right. Is that Bengay? I just somebody pulled out some. Yeah. No.
Yes.
No
Something's
question.
going on with this. What is going on with that? There's this happening. There's that happening. There's the security guy who's given me major stink eye. I can't get close to that. There's a multitude of active. What's the word I'm thinking of? I can't think of it. Energies being transmitted and received in various levels, and trying to be receptive to all of those. And you can still miss stuff, painfully obvious stuff that you would never think you ever would. But other times you say, you know what, I am alive, I'm present, I'm in the moment, I'm aware, I am a good conduit to try to convey the imagery that will help reinforce what the announcers are talking about. I didn't even talk about the announcers. The announcers got 6 more different things going on. Some of them goofing, some of them real, some of them aware. Saying, did anybody else see that so-and-so kind of limped back down the court? Yes, 4 of us did, because we all performing at a high level. Right. But then again, maybe not, because there was a thunderous dunk and LeBron damn near tore the basket down, and we didn't recognize the fact that his point guard is now pulled up with a hamstring, and that's going to definitely weigh in on the rest of the series, or for that matter, the rest of the league or the rest of the year. I don't know. I could talk about it for hours.
No. Okay.
But I think there's certain things, and I think there's certain directors, which is what you initially asked, that are receptive to that type of thing, and saying, "Why did you do that?" And ultimately, that stuff all has to come to trust. If a director does trust a Steve Lowe, does trust a Cheese, does trust a Tim too, why did you do that? Well, here's the reason. Well, that's a good reason. I believe in your storytelling abilities. We've talked about what we're going to look for today, and yes, obviously, Kevin Durant tearing his Achilles. Everybody was there, right where they were supposed to be. I was not there, but I was watching at home. It was amazing, sad for me as a fan, but amazing storytelling that it was very compelling to see that everybody saw exactly what needed to be seen, because the director, producer, camera ops were all
on the
aware.
Same page, right?
Yes, all on the same page, all pulling the same way, all pushing the same way, whatever analogy you want to use in that regard. And as a result, it was covered very well. Some of the greatest imagery we ever shoot is stuff that's backstage. I never forget Kyrie Irving walking off the court when he tore his knee up at Golden State. We had 3 cameras in the back hallway. Sometimes that stuff is much more compelling than the actual stuff in the arena proper.
Absolutely. Or like what was the year? Wasn't it LeBron at San Antonio? It may not have been LeBron. He knocked over the drapery. He was upset. Yeah.
One of my favorites is Dirk Nowitzki, and we had just a lock-off camera, and he kicked a exercise bike.
Yeah.
In Miami when they lost. It was just a little point of view, POV, little lipstick camera that we had put up in the hallway just to see what was going on, in the background. There's 1,000 different ways to tell these stories, and each director does it a little bit differently, and each one tries, I think, their dead level best. I tell you this, I know when a director starts talking about his getaway car to get to the airport because he wants to get back to New York before 9 o'clock, go to a party, I know where his priority is. And, that's somebody hired him, and that's on them. I see other people that stick around and talk to the camera operators, tape operators. Why did we do this? Why didn't we do that? In the future, I want you to do this. That was good, but let's stick with that from now on. And are invested and are all the way in, and are in it for the long haul and don't really.
Absolutely. So
are not really up about getting to the flight. That said and done, some of these guys do get to flights because they've got a lot of stuff to do.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
Yeah, no question. But there's definitely a difference, though, for sure.
You can size up somebody's commitment.
Absolutely.
As quickly as it sometimes it takes 30 seconds in the camera meeting, or just initially meet them. This is just the job that I do in between my hockey games. I'm going to do 20 baseball games. I don't really care. Oh, this is just a hockey game that I do when I'm not doing baseball. But I'm a staff guy, so I got to do them. And I don't know. Some people, I mean, you can't be an expert in everything.
Right.
You know?
Right.
It's a challenge to do that, to be a all-round fluent. I consider a lot of this stuff almost like a language. I think I speak good golf. I think I speak good
good baseball, good basketball.
Good basketball. And but you know what? I would say I'm probably not the guy you want to have covering tight follow in a hockey, or curling, or
racing, or
a lot of the things. There's only so many you can do, and so many. I don't know what the term would be. My words are failing me. In terms of what you can actually
be proficient at,
become conversant, and make sense in how you can best tell those images, those stories. Tell those images. I can't speak English.
That's all right. It's all right. I got one more question for you.
Okay.
Since I know we've been on for a while, and it's a beautiful thing. This last question is easy but not easy. Very subjective. What is perfection in terms of what we do?
I don't know that you can get perfection. I don't know that you can achieve it. I would think different people means different things to different people. I think that I don't think we'll ever have a perfectly aired game. I think we'll get close. I think we try. I think we aspire to. I don't think anybody's one of my heroes growing up, a fellow by the name of Bill Walton, went 21 for 22 in a Final Four game to win a championship for UCLA. That's pretty close. Perfect game. For baseball, I don't know. Perfection. I think that it's something to aspire to. I don't think it's something we could ever really achieve. I know I can't. My hand motor skills are not that good. I think that a well framed image can be a joy forever. I think a good replay, I think a well-crafted storyline, a retease that conveys in 30 seconds what we've just seen for the past hour, sometimes can be close, maybe to the frame. I think that a turn of words by an announcer, a brilliant announcer like Mike Breen or Kevin Harlan or John Madden or 1,000 other people. You could say, I'm sorry, forgive me, I can't think of names.
No, all good.
Can be compelling. I think something when you get it, and it feels right, and it feels pure, and it feels true. I think when an athlete smiles at the camera, like, oh my God, I just made that shot. Can you believe that? We just scored a touchdown. We scored 3 touchdowns in the last minute and a half. Is this not something? This is unbelievable. This is the reason. This is the moment. This is the why I went through 2-a-days through August, got banged up, did this, did that in that regard. But I think that, such a thin line between winning and losing. And it's all, to me, the loser stories are just as compelling, sometimes more so, because they did the very same blessed thing.
That's right.
They worked just as hard. They went through just as much pain, just as much rehab on their ankle, their knee, their shoulder. It's always interesting to me to see these sports things that they show on TV or in Sports Illustrated, where they show the 9 different surgeries that these guys have had. And you look at them and you go, God, there's a specimen. Michelangelo would love to carve you into ivory back in the day. You were the perfect human specimen. He says, well, no, not really. I got this, that, this, and this wrong with me. And I've had to try to repair all of it as best I can and adapt and move forward. But I don't know. I don't know if a perfection can ever be something that can be attained. But I think that for us at least, an image that could happen at any point in time, any place, anywhere. Are you put yourself in the right mind, the right frame, the right mindset to capture it and to be the conduit to allow others to see and experience what you've just seen.
Mm-hmm.
Be it through the mic, be it through the camera, be it through 1,000 different things. And I think what's really interesting to me is big moments in TV that I've worked on. People have laid out and been quiet and just sort of let the whole thing just take place, and not overspeak, overtalk. And I mean that on announcers' ends or production ends, or and you've heard it, I'm sure, 1,000 different times. The director say, "Let's just lay out, just let this play out."
Yep.
Everybody knows what they're supposed to do at the end of the game. Let's see if he can actually get these guys into the end zone, get these guys to the into overtime. Make the pitch, make the hit,
absolutely,
score the goal, make a putt, whatever you might be, and then it gets really, really quiet, and then it gets really surreal, and then it gets really, really, oh my God, how lucky are we to get to do this job?
Absolutely.
Get to be here and to get to it. I rewatched some of the Masters of Tiger last year, and I got to work it, and I had a couple of images, and I was beside myself thinking, I had a tiny little role in that, a tiny one, but I played a part.
That's right.
And
you were a cog in the wheel.
A tiny one, a tiny spoke, one of those little bicycle spokes, not one of those big chuck wagon spokes, in that regard. But that said and done, it was, wow, look at that. Hey, I helped. I did my job. And you never know when those things are going to happen. And when they do, sometimes they're there for the next 20 or 30 years. Eric Liddell, I told you, did the Desmond Howard. Iconic
Heisman pose.
And 20 years later, he was there at the same game again, doing it, and it just so happened. I mean, he was a tremendous college football player, and Eric's a tremendous storyteller, and I'd love for you to talk to him. But you don't know when those images or those moments are going to happen. And sometimes they happen in the first inning or the third quarter, or they don't always happen in the bottom of the ninth inning or the 18th tee, or so on and so forth.
Absolutely.
I got one more for you. Can I tell this one more?
Yeah, hell yeah.
This was a golf thing. I was literally doing relief for a what's the word I'm thinking of? For an internet show. Okay. Which was fine. There were 4 of us, and we were just on the tee box, just doing a little bit of live coverage in addition to the actual, just another platform for CBS. We were at a place called Whistling Straits. It's out on one of the, I think, Lake Michigan, up in Wisconsin. Forgive me if I got my lake wrong. I think that's right. It was really wailing, really blowing, really crazy. I walked in, I gave this guy, and it was hot too. It was August, the PGA tournament. This big hitter named John Daly came up. He was doing pretty well. It was a par 3 hole right up next to the water. He comes up, just throws a ball down, doesn't tee the ball up, and just hits. Whack. We're like, that's odd. Hits it into the water. He puts the ball down again, just throws it down, hits again, into the water again. And in golf, 1 in, 2 out, 3 in, 4 out. Now he's about to hit 5. This is a par 3.
So he's way
he hits
over.
It in. He's way, yeah. And up to this point in time, he's going to make the cut, which is money, And this is the 13th hole. He hits it, and he's not even. It's totally the 10 cup, totally the 10 cup. And I'm just kind of like, what in the world? Because the guy I'm replacing has just gone to get his lunch. He does it again. He finally lands on the green at like 7. And he flings his 5-iron out into the water to the amusement of the people there, because he doesn't want anything to do with that club ever again.
Right.
But it was him, not that. there's boats out there. A boat backs up. I grab the volunteer marshal, out of my shot, move him away. They back up, and this kid picks the thing up because it's kind of floating because there's rubber on the handle, and holds it up over his head like he's pulled the sword out of the
stone.
And everybody cheers crazy. And obviously I was in a machine. They put this all together, and the director, his name's Steve Milton, says, I don't know who was on that camera, but that was the perfect job. Great job, whoever's on camera, 287.
Right.
Long story longer, because they edited it down, and they said, can you believe what just happened? Don Daly came up to 13. He was this, and he literally's thrown it down. He's almost swinging one-armed.
Right.
I mean, he does not care. And he just wants to get into the clubhouse. I don't know why, because he was, I don't know what prompted this behavior or action. My friend comes back and says, anything happened while I was gone? I went, yeah, actually something did. He went, shut up, Steve. Give me my camera.
Right.
And I was like, okay, here goes. And later that day, at the end of the day, he comes up and goes, why didn't you tell me that happened? I was gone for 40 minutes, and 30 minutes of it were this unbelievable, the biggest thing we've been waiting on all week long. And I said, who knows? You never know. And it was, I'm sure I could find it online. It was unbelievably funny and sad both at the same time. And this kid was hilarious. And I had a wide angle, so I could barely get in on him. But I got in enough for him to hold this thing up like, I have Excalibur!
Look what I found.
Anyway, sorry.
That's a great story. You know what was perfect, Angel?
What's that?
This interview, man.
Thanks, brother.
I want to thank you for doing this, see?
Well, I hope you could get something. Maybe you can get a clip.
I'll see what I don't know. It's a lot of this shit's going to end up on the floor, but, I'll take a couple sound bites from you,